Hi, my name is James Ayres and this is my ATIV evaluation for my film What Would You Do and its ancillary tasks. Now, the first thing to talk about is codes and conventions, and the easiest way to do this is to split them into ones I used and ones I didn't. Codes are systems of signs which create meaning, which can then be divided into two categories, technical and symbolic. Technical codes are all the ways in which equipment is used to tell the story of media text, for example the camera work in a film. Symbolic codes show what is beneath the surface of what we see. For example, a character's actions show you how the character is feeling. Some codes fit both categories, such as music. Conventions are the generally accepted ways of doing something. There are general conventions in any medium, such as the use of interviewee quotes in a print article, but conventions are also genre-specific. Codes and conventions are used together in any study of genre. It's not enough to discuss a technical code used, such as camera work, without saying how it is conventionally used in a genre. For example, the technical code of lighting is used in some way in all film genres. It is a convention of the horror genre that side and backlighting is used to create mystery and suspense, an integral part of any horror movie. The first theory I used was Roland Barthes' 5 codes theory. According to Barthes, there is always more than one way to read a text. Within any given text, there is a plurality of meaning rather than one correct reading. Uncovering a text's plural meaning requires not only reading, but also rereading. Each time you read a text, you read it in a slightly different way. With each rereading, another meaning comes to the surface. The term codes can be misleading. Rather than a set of rules for how a text should be interpreted, Barthes' codes are a perspective from which you can view a text. My film uses this theory simply because there are too many readings to take in one go. There is the ideology that cyberbullying is wrong, but there is also the theme of familial relationships and how they can so easily be broken, as well as the message that bullies are often bullied themselves, among other readings. The second theory I made use of was John Hartley's audience theory. This theory is pretty self-explanatory. You maintain a relationship with your audience. Plain and simple. I made use of this theory through social media sites such as Twitter. For example, when making my film poster, I had 2 different versions that I uploaded to the internet and asked my Twitter followers to say which one they preferred. The overwhelming response for one of them influenced my final decisions to make it. My film also makes use of an open, non-linear narrative. Now it's time to talk about the theories I've changed. Vladimir Prop's structured story theory is the first one that I will talk about. Prop analysed the basic plot components of Russian folktales to identify their most basic elements. Prop's narrative structure is split into 31 sections, but because that would take far too long to detail, I'll just give you the 7 main points right now. 1. A member of the family leaves home. 2. A command is issued for the hero not to do anything. 3. The hero ignores this command. 4. The main villain appears. 5. The victim is fooled by the villain, helping them by accident. 6. Hero and villain join in direct combat. And 7. The villain is defeated. I challenge this theory by not following any of the points. Instead, I turned this theory on its head and started my film with the villain seemingly being the victim of my narrative. The second theory that I challenged was Tivetan Todorov's 5-step theory. This theory, as hinted by its name, can be split into 5 parts that I will be explaining using the Bond series of films. Part 1 is equilibrium. This is the starting point for the narrative. It is seen as normal life, where everything seems happy and things are balanced. Like that moment in Live and Let Die, where Bond is with Caruso at the start. Part 2 is disruption. This is where something disrupts the equilibrium in the narrative. This is usually caused by an event. Like the moment in any Bond film, where the antagonist steals something, kills someone, or threatens the entire world. Step 3 is realization. In this step, they realize the disruption to normal life, and they'll usually try to find a solution to resolving this. Think of the moment in any Bond film where Bond is dragged away from the woman he is wooing into MI6 and his next dangerous mission. The 4th step, called resolution, is how they will solve the disruption. This usually involves a character or characters having to complete tasks in order to do so. This is usually the point that the audience have been waiting to see. The bit that it's all been building up towards, the huge epic climax. Part 5 is return to equilibrium. This is the point where they return to normal life. Whether it's back to normal or to a new equilibrium, where their life is different but they're still happy. Using the Bond analogy again, this is the moment at the end of all the films, apart from the ones with Daniel Craig, where Bond goes off into the sunset with a new pretty girl. Now let's move on to question 2. In this question, I'll be talking about how my film review website, poster and film work together. First, I'm going to talk about design. The reason I chose my house style, the red text on a dark background,
is because I wanted there to be a link between all of my products that my audience could clearly see. I made use of dark colours to represent the social realist aspect of my film. The darkness reflects the darkness in all the characters of my film, from the vindictive verbal abuse of the bully's older brother to the neglect of the victim's older sister. All of my products involve the use of Twitter. Both my film and poster have the hashtag #WhatWouldYouDo, and my review site has a Twitter link embedded into it. My reasoning for this is twofold. It takes advantage of the fact that Twitter is one of, if not the fastest way to communicate information, and also reflects the film itself through the use of social media. Through conducting audience research, I have been advised in many ways to improve my project, and have discovered that it is the most important thing to consider before creating my own project. My feedback has been very helpful in developing all aspects of my project, from comments on my film helping me with my editing in order to make it easier to understand, to outside opinions on my poster helping to create something that stayed true to my film. I used the idea that Clark et al. Proposed, and kept regular audience research, either through the use of social media such as Facebook and Twitter, or in person by showing them my projects and asking them what they thought could be improved. Once I had the finished version, I sent it to a few friends and even one of the actors in the film for them to reply with comments about the film's effectiveness in reaching its audience, and also to remark upon the film itself. Like a mini review, this is what they said.
James, I like that opening shot with the house, the exterior. That was really nice.
Yeah, I kind of liked your film. There's some bits I do like. There's some bits I'm still not quite sure about myself.
It's really good.
I like how you showed a variety of lives affected.
But I think there's some bits you've done well. Like, for example, Man is the cruelest animal. That whole section, I think, is really cool.
Nice kind of work around the 20-second mark where he storms upstairs and it whips around with him, and then the camera is pushed through the door.
The only flaw I would say is that the jumping back made me a bit confused, but that could just be me.
Is I did feel that the Man is the cruelest animal scene was a bit long, in my opinion.
But it does show the kind of careless ease you can really upset someone with just by turning on the internet.
Through doing this process, I have learned that it is one thing to create a product that I am pleased with, and another to create a product that others like. Regular audience research is something that my group and I neglected last year, and after this project I realised that we should have used it as soon as possible, due to the amount of pure creativity that having an outside, unbiased opinion offers. At the start of my project, I sat several of my target audience members down and asked them to answer several questions, such as, what would you want to see in a film that has a cyberbullying theme, and would a film that has two endings interest you, and recorded their answers. The general feedback that I gained at this point encouraged me to go ahead and make this film. The program that I used most to plan my film was a mind mapping software known as MindMaple. I thought that this would be the best way to organise my thoughts on my film, to lay my ideas out with a few mouse clicks. This was good as it gave me a place to review my thoughts at a later date and consolidate them easily. Any video research, such as looking at short films, was done on sites such as Vimeo, Depict and YouTube. I used these sites as they have a huge amount of short films of all different genres, such as the short films Sam and TikTok. Another tool that I used was the Web 2.0 program Wordle. I used Wordle to create several mood boards for my film. In doing this, I was able to, for the first time, have a representation of my film that I could look at to draw inspiration from. I have used media technologies throughout the construction of my project. I used the editing software Final Cut Pro X to compile and edit my film. I chose to use this program originally due to its stabilization feature, something that I needed in order to make my clips as clear as possible. Through using the software, I discovered that it was much simpler than I first imagined, with a layout reminiscent of iMovie 11. This streamlined approach allowed for me to edit quickly and more effectively without having to navigate through menus to get to the effects I desired. Anything that I couldn't figure out how to do quickly, I solved through searching on the internet for answers. The software included many more helpful features, but the one that I found myself using the most was the retime feature. This allowed me to speed up or slow down a clip of either audio or visual to any length, simply by dragging the handles on either side of the clip from left to right as needed. I utilised Photoshop to edit any images for my project, including those used on my film review website and poster. By using the professional grade software, I was able to manipulate my images to a higher standard that was way above my previous projects, which used Adobe Fireworks from the same creative suite. Adobe Audition and GarageBand are the two programs I've used to record any sound for my project, be they sound effects for my film or even this very evaluation.